they've been totally preoccupied with the Maui fire recovery, so I don't know. Nothing got done this past last year, and is anything done this time? I don't know, at least they got their members, approved.
It's true.
But there's one new one, right? Because Kamana resigned, so.
I am testing. Can you guys hear me? I heard you, and then now there's no sound.
Hi, Julie.
There you are. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I just wonder what the playground's gonna look like in another year or two. It's gonna be interesting. It might be more of the same, it might be totally radically different. Thank you.
Hey, Andy.
Hi, all right.
Wow.
One, two, three of us. Four with Julie. Wow,
Yeah. Did you hear from Dan?
Yeah, she said that she was going to.
Dan,
I like the t-shirt.
you can let Rodrigo in.
Well, he's in.
He's in.
We're just in a meeting with someone in that executive
Great
You
minds.
can let him in as a panelist. What I meant.
the CSO, yeah.
Who, Rodrigo? No, Maunakea Support Services.
Oh, okay.
Recording in progress.
This is Diana. Okay, time is it? I'm calling me to order.
Mhm.
Okay, can everyone hear? Okay, good. So it is now 4:58. I will call the meeting to order. We have quorum. Andy, Greg, Julie, and myself, and Diana. I will start by asking, well, there is no public comments, right, Courtney? So there were no public comments submitted. I'd like to know if anyone that is on Zoom, if you have someone else in your room, can you raise your hand? Seeing none, for the record, those attending via Zoom are in the rooms by themselves. So I will now.
I don't know if it, I'm sorry, I don't know if it counts. I'm at my house and my wife is floating around here and there, so I'm not sure if that counts as somebody being in the room.
Gary, can I? Okay, yeah, that was.
Doesn't
my
count,
answer.
Rodrigo.
Yeah, especially if she's going in and out, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Now we'll go to the approval of the minutes of the August 6th, 2024 meeting. Are there any changes or edits to the minutes that were circulated?
None from
Not
me.
to- Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as circulated?
Motion to
submitted.
approve the minutes as written.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
Second,
Second from Andy. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes unanimously approved. I'll move on to Kahukumana report.
Okay. And if it's okay, I'd like to incorporate Kahukumana into my ED report as well. So I'll just kind of roll into the ED
Okay.
report as well. So Kahukumana, good, well, aloha everyone, good to see you folks. Thank you for joining us. From Kahukumana, we were supposed to meet this Thursday, but that meeting has been rescheduled to next week. On the 11th and 12th, we're actually holding their annual Kahukumana retreat at Halepohaku. So we're gonna combine their monthly meeting with their retreat next weekend. In addition to just some operational things that we'll be working with them on or updating them on, some of which I'm be updating you folks on tonight. The things that we are in particular gonna be focused on are a couple of things that I briefed this board on before. One is, as Noah and I have shared with you folks, over the years, as a result of our archaeological surveys and the initial inventory that was done, there are a number of artifacts that were taken from certain sites for additional study and classification and then returned to us. And, we've been working on trying to develop a policy and a program for returning those artifacts that are no longer of any educational use for us back to the sites that they were gathered from. I've had conversations with MK SOA about this, and everybody has agreed that it's probably something we want to do, but they want to be able to look at the artifacts themselves first to really understand what we have. So what Nahua and Kaleo, our education and outreach coordinator, are working on is actually taking the artifacts that we have here, stored here, up to Halepohaku for the retreat so that they can actually inspect the material directly. It's stored in some storage cabinets that can be transported. It's just been too hard to try to get everybody coordinated to come here. So since we're gonna have them up there, we're gonna take the artifacts up there to them. And hopefully that will give them a better sense of what we have and sort of the significance or potential educational uses some of those artifacts may have. And we can develop then a program to return stuff that we're not going to keep for education. The second thing that we're going to be focused on with them is something I briefed you folks on last month, I believe it was, and that was the access to the Ahu on the summit and the issues that we have been having with public access going up there. I believe I shared with you that we've opened the conversation with the Royal Order of Kamehameha that is still evolving. So nothing more to report on that right now. But Kahukumana wants to spend some time on the Mauna actually seeing for themselves some of the activity that's going on up there when visitors want to go up there. And how the interactions that our folks are having with the visitors take place and whatnot. So we'll be focusing on that matter as well while we're there on the retreat. I will also be updating them on a couple of projects, one of which we'll gonna be updating you folks tonight about, and that's the Caltech sublease termination agreement. And I'll get into that later. And then also, we'll be updating them on the, I don't know if you folks remember this, but, a couple of years ago, Canada-France Telescope, came forward with a proposal to decommission their diesel fuel tank that's, as up there at the summit adjacent to their facility. Phase one of that project required, among other things, Caltech doing some soil sampling or any potential or evidence of potential releases that may have occurred over the years. So they've completed that. They submitted all of that to Department of Health. And Department of Health has approved them moving forward because they basically found no evidence of any leakage. So phase two of the project is actual decommissioning of it. Now, you may or may not recall, but one of the unique things about this particular decommissioning was that they were requesting that at this point in time, it not be removed, the tank actually not be removed because of its proximity to the foundation of the building. And so what they're proposing is to decommission in place for now, which is to fill it with some kind of material. And then it would actually be decommissioned at the time that the observatory got decommissioned. So we want to make sure everybody is aware of phase two. You've now heard about it, they'll hear about it next week. And we'll also be taking it to the Environment Committee next week as well. So that's some of what we're working on with Kahukumana. We are down at least one member who's had a personal issue come up that's prevented him from being able to participate, but he's telling us he'll be able to re-engage probably next month. So we're looking forward to that, getting him re-engaged. So any questions about Kahukumana and some of the things that we're working on with them? Okay. If I can move into my executive director's report.
Yes.
I wanted to spend some time updating you folks on the Hurricane Hone recovery efforts. I think the last meeting I shared some photos and explanation of some of the damage that we had experienced up on the summit. And a lot of the basic work, the big work has been completed by a utilities crew. But there's some ongoing issues that are a little bit more complicated that we're working on with Helco and DLNR that I wanted to share with you. So I am going to show you a few pictures of what Rodrigo and his team are dealing with. This is it. No, wrong one. Huh. Okay, there we go. Couldn't find it on my screen. Can everyone see the slide, the photos? Okay. So, as you know, we have a pretty complex system of electrical and community communications lines that connect all of the observatories with UH and vice versa. These include electrical communications, data communications, as well as telephone. So as a result of Hone, there was in several areas some pretty extensive erosion that occurred around many of the boxes. And since the utility boxes, for the most part, are within the utility easement granted to Helco, technically they are supposed to repair it. So Rodrigo is working with Helco and had to work with DLNR in one particular case to figure out how we might move forward with doing this work. Helco is saying that they don't necessarily have the right equipment to come up here to do this repair work. They're wondering if the university could do some of this work or do this work under their supervision, since in some cases we're talking about live electrical lines. So there's a whole set of issues that comes up with doing that, if that's how we're gonna proceed. Not to mention the fact that, there are labor costs as well that would have to be reimbursed. So we're meeting with Helco. Rodrigo has set up a meeting this Thursday with Helco to discuss some of this, how we would proceed. This is to give you an example or idea of some of the damage that we're dealing with. In one particular case, one of those utility boxes is just opposite the driveway that goes into the VLBA telescope, the Very Long Base Array. And that's the telescope that's not on the summit. It's about halfway down, a little less than halfway down. There's a utility box opposite their driveway. That box is actually in, that is not on UH leased land. So Rodrigo had to work with DLNR to secure permissions, the proper permissions to do any work on that box. So those are some things that we're working on with Helco. It's going to take a while to kind of figure out how to best to move forward with these. And part of the reason why I'm wanting to update you folks on this is because I was sharing with Roberta earlier. I will be updating or briefing the MKSO board on this matter as well. Because I know that any kind of development, construction related activity, even if it's repair work, it's something that they want to be apprised of. So anything I brief them on, I'm going to brief you folks on, and anything I brief you folks on, I'm going to brief them on. The second issue there that we're working on is a little bit more problematic, and this is a culvert that goes under the road that connects IRTF to Ukert. As a result of the water drainage, there was some significant damage to the culvert on the downside, the downhill side of this road. Initial assessment by our utility crew is that this is probably a project that's larger than we could handle. So we're going to have to do some investigation and research to determine how best to approach this. This is on our UH leased land. It's not attached to any specific observatory subleased area. So we're gonna have to figure out how we approach this. Argument could be made, it is connected to the road in that it goes under the road and prevents the road from eroding in situations like this or being damaged in situations like this. So there's a conversation with the observatories about their participating in this as well. But this is all still under development. we haven't sort of figured out the best way to move forward. Any questions on this part? I have a couple more things to update you folks on. Yeah, Andy.
Just quickly, so the other road, down from Hopukea to the last switchback also has some
Yeah.
erosion, but was that damaged here? I didn't see it in previous presentations, so.
There is some damage there. We're still doing assessments of sort of what we might need to do. We're kind of focused on the big stuff that we know for sure is gonna have to require some outside help. But yes, we're aware of that.
That looks pretty deep. I mean, did it cut it, is it like twice the size of the initial hole?
Rodrigo, do you know? How extensive is that hole?
The one you're showing on this picture right now,
Yeah,
there is that black shadow you see below it. It's not that it's like a very deep crevasse. It's just a black erosion prevention mat that was laid down and then material laid on top of that. So with a water erosion, it uncovered that anti-erosion mat, and that's what's you seeing that black silhouette there. So it's exposed now. So it's not that I mean, you're not looking at a big void. It's just that black material. So the problem we have right now is that it's too far from below the road for our backhoe to reach down there and place some rocks to provide some stability. And it's too far up from the bottom side to be able to bring any type of tractor to get there. So we're gonna need something with a much longer reach that can place rocks and materials down there to stabilize that.
Thank you. So it really is an issue. Thank goodness you had the mat,
yeah, right.
because if you didn't have it, the erosion would have been terrible. So you just have to recover it then, Rodrigo, is that correct? Recover it and stabilize it?
Yeah, so what I reach out to somebody I know from an engineering firm to see if they can come and give us some ideas, some perspectives. We're thinking that we probably need to place some medium to large size boulders down in that hookah that was created to provide some stabilization, and at least to prevent the water from carving the slope and just create more of a break wall that would divert the water into several places. That's just one thought we have right now. Like I say, it's outside of our ability to repair at this point, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on this matter? So we'll keep you folks apprised as things proceed. The other thing I wanted to share with you folks is some work that Kaleo is heading up to expand our visitor education programs at the visitor information station. As a result of a program that Kaleo was able to attend earlier this summer on the stewardship of public lands, he came back with some ideas that he's been talking to our visitor information staff and management about, along with Justin Ye, our resource management manager. And they've come up with a proposal to add some experiences as part of the Viz program for people when they come up and they need to spend some time acclimating, so they're going to be there anyway, or people who are not able to go to the summit either for medical reasons or because they don't have a four-wheel drive or whatnot. The program that they've conceived and have begun discussing with involves some guided tours of different sorts, as well as some workshops and presentations. One of the guided tours would be to have regularly scheduled tours of the conservation area that's right there the DLNR Hina Hina Silver Sword enclosure right there by the visitor information station, where our people, Justin and his team, are doing restoration work. They get a lot, our interpretive guys get a lot of questions about, okay, what's the significance of the silver sword? What's the significance of the ahu that's in that area? They want to learn about other plants and whatnot. So one of the tours would be a couple times a day, scheduled ahead of time. People have to sign up. You have like a little 20-minute walk through the area with somebody providing them some information and answering questions. A second idea would be to have our interpretive guides actually walk people through the display area at the Viz and give them a more in-depth sort of explanation of the cultural, the historical, the scientific, astronomical aspects of Mauna Kea. And this would, again, be led by our interpretive guides as well. Same thing, you'd sign up for it ahead of time. So it's like when you go to a national park and you can, the rangers are set up to give talks or whatever every so often. It's the same kind of thing. In addition to that, we do have one staff who is fluent in Ololo Hawaii, and she has been very much wanting to share language with the visitors. So she is volunteered to do set up little workshops outside, where she can teach basic Hawaiian language to the visitors. Maybe focused on the words that for the plants and the pu'us and the geologic features and all of that sort of thing, and explaining a little bit more about language and teaching them the language. And then the fourth component would be workshops and presentations, where we actually invite Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners in. And Kaleo has several ideas on how to do that. We actually, it wasn't a public workshop, but we actually had one of the cultural practitioners who utilizes, with the group that utilizes the ahu in the silver sword enclosure, come and teach the significance of that ahu to our staff so that they can better answer questions. And it was all part of beginning to prepare and train our staff to participate in these programs. So there's a number of things that are still being worked on, but the team has really kind of gotten behind it and likes the idea of kind of expanding sort of how they're interacting with visitors and sort of doing more active teaching. So we're really excited about this, and it's not something that's going to cost a lot of money, but we do have to dedicate some time and resources to getting folks trained up properly. Any questions about that? Yes.
Yeah, this is Bonnie. Just while you're on this point,
Yeah.
UH Hilo is doing a series of talk stories every Friday at noon, and this Friday is going to feature Kaleo
That's right.
and talking, and it's in the Kilohana Center on the bottom floor of the library. So if anyone's interested, I think it'll be fun.
I talked to him today, and he said he was told that it might be a full house. He wasn't expecting that.
Well, actually the Mauna Kea Authority asked about it because somebody had a copy, I guess, and so I also pushed it out to them. So some of us are otherwise obliged to go to the Japanese Chamber luncheon on Friday, but for people who are available, it should be a good conversation.
Yeah. So he's going to be talking about some of the work that we do up here and how he is trying to engage the community in different ways. Yeah, Mike.
I have a question referring back to your culvert issue. Are we self-insured or do we have flood
University
insurance?
is self-insured.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we actually, as a result of the damage, we were told to keep track of all of our costs associated with the repairs. And So Rodrigo is tracking all of that, and I don't know that it'll qualify, but we will submit that.
Okay,
Are the tours gonna be like Monday through Friday or 7 days a week?
They still have to figure out the
Oh,
schedule, because
okay.
some of it will be dependent on
Who's available
staff.
to,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
to
So-
give the
yeah.
tours.
Some of the staff feel more comfortable doing certain topics, certain tours, while others feel more comfortable doing other ones. So the whole scheduling, and it's gonna be by reservation, where you go online and you make a reservation, so they can control the numbers a little bit.
Mm.
Okay. That concludes oh, no, I had one other item, that's right. This weekend, as Bonnie and others know, David Lasner is gonna be coming up, and we'll be hosting him at the, at Halepohaku. He, interestingly enough, has never been on a summit tour, sunset summit tour. So
Oh my God.
we are hosting him at Canada France is hosting him. Mike is coming up and others, and then he's got some friends that he's invited. And then they're going to overnight, and then we're going to do a hike up to Lake Waiau on Sunday morning. So really looking forward to hosting him. Special that he's taking the time to spend with us this way. Okay, any questions about my ED report? Okay.
Okay. So we'll move on to agenda items.
Yeah.
I think the first one is the gas tank.
Yeah.
Replacement.
So I'll ask Rodrigo to give you guys just a brief recap. We have briefed you folks on this project before. We've took all of that feedback that we received from you folks, Environment Committee and Kahukumana, along with MK SOA, integrated it and put it into this final report, final project proposal that Courtney sent out as part of the meeting materials. So now we're coming back and asking for your formal recommendation for approval. From Kahukumana's perspective, there was no substantive or feedback or changes that they requested. We had ensured and built into the proposal that there would be a cultural monitor during the ground disturbance activities. Of course, all of the appropriate archaeological monitors and other cultural protocols that will be in place are all built into the proposal. From Environment Committee's perspective, there actually wasn't as many questions as we thought there would be. The one question that did pop up was question of, do we really need fuel storage at Halepohaku? What about EV fleets, people moving to EV fleets? And I see Andy smiling. It is something that some of the observatories have explored more than others. It is certainly something that we've looked at. We actually tried to work with Helco a couple of years back to see if we could get on their program to have some EV charging stations installed up there. They rejected us. The issue is really twofold. One is the charging stations and putting those in. But there is also an issue that we run into right now because of the state's policy that they want us to move to electric vehicles. And it's really hard to find good, reliable, and affordable electrical four-wheel drive vehicles.
Mm.
So,
is there an issue with temperature on that as well?
I don't know. We do
I
know.
don't actually think there is. We looked at this in particular, but what we found was that they were being used other places where temperatures get as low as here without too much trouble. But in principle, there might be, but in practice, it doesn't seem to be.
Okay. I heard reports on the mainland.
Yeah.
Where the temperatures got really cold and then the efficiency of the batteries dropped.
Yeah.
So we did answer that question to their satisfaction. So there have been no changes, substantive changes to the proposal, but I'll ask Rodrigo to just give a real brief recap once again of the project.
Yeah, mahalo, Greg. Just to check, anybody in this group was not present when I give the preview of the project, so I could know, how much detail to go into right now. If I can just see some hands. Oh, Julie was not there before. Diana wasn't there. Diana was there, wasn't he? Okay. Anyways, okay. So I'll just touch into the project. Let me see. Oop, okay. Hope you can see my screen. So this is a formal project proposal. I'm gonna scroll down just to give a quick review of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then we'll go into the proposal itself. Where are we? Okay, here we go. So why we're doing this? There's a new regulatory Hawaiian rule issued by DOH, Rule 11-280.1-21, related to upgrading the underground storage tanks. And it says that underground storage systems that were installed before August 9, 2013 must be provided with secondary containment that meets requirements of the section or removed. Our tanks were indeed installed before 2013, and they do not have secondary containment. So we have until July 15, 2028 to meet the new regulation. Because it is Mauna Kea, the decision has been made that instead of replacing them with double-walled underground storage tanks, we will remove them and replace them with above-ground storage tanks. So right now we have 3 underground storage tanks located in the utilities base yard. We have a 12,000-gallon diesel tank and 2 gasoline tanks, a 4,000-gallon and a 2,000-gallon. All those are interconnected by underground lines to the dispensing pumps. There are some distribution lines that go from the diesel tank to a pump right here next to the building, and from the pump over to the old generator room, and over to Halepohaku to the diesel boiler. The reason why we have such a large diesel tank there is because it used to provide fuel for the generators in the generator room. We no longer have that large of a demand for diesel. Right now, diesel is being primarily used for the road grading equipment, snow removal equipment, and for the backup diesel boiler in Halepohaku. This is another picture of where the tanks are located. If you have been there, you can visualize where the fuel pumps are, the 2 gasoline tanks under here, the diesel tanks over here. This is a leak detection system that is inspected and verified on an annual basis. And since it was installed, there's been no leaks detected by that system, which makes us feel fairly comfortable that there's no leaks from tanks onto the ground. Right now, the current infrastructure was installed under CDUP 1430 during the construction of the HP facilities in 82-83. The leak detection system was installed in 98 when the new regulation was implemented about leak detection systems. There's been no leaks detected since 1998 on that system. Like I say, we have all 3 tanks are single wall fiberglass tanks, 12,000-gallon diesel, 2 gasoline, 1 4,002 and 1 2,000 gallons. We have the 3 dispensing pumps and the fuel lines connecting all of these guys. Right now, we're roughly using about 250 to 500 gallons of diesel per month, primarily, as I mentioned, for the heavy equipment to do road and snow work. and about 2,000 to 2,500 gallons per month of gasoline that's used by CMS fleets and observatory fleets and other MKSS vehicles, mainly the vehicles that reside up on the mountain. We hired an engineering firm, engineering partners, to develop a engineering proposal on the removal of the tanks and the design of the replacement station for them. So the scope of work includes removal of all 3 tanks, soil testing for leaks, remove all the buried fuel lines, test the soil for leaks, remove the dispensing pumps, remove the electrical lines, remove the fuel transfer pumps, provide remediation if needed, and the estimated cost for the removal of the existing tanks is about $800,000. Which right now is currently being funded by the observatories. This shows a diagram of all the deconstruction and removal that's going to have to take place. And actually, the next slide, I have another slide that shows better. So we'll just skip on this one. The proposal from engineering partners has all the requirements and specs for the removal of the tank. Including backfilling specs to replace the void that's left behind with what type of material is going to be filled up. This is the one that shows the work that needs to be done. So the 2 blue areas are the areas where the tanks will be excavated. The areas under the red lining is trenching that needs to be done under existing asphalt. It's about 480 square feet. And the green is trenching that needs to be done over soil, about 450 square feet of trenching on soil. A tank excavation, about 950 square feet at various depths. The proposal includes a best management practices plan with all the required measures to prevent erosion and spillage that's required by design. There's all those specifications built into the engineering partner's design. For the replacement, we're looking at installing 2 3,000 gallon tanks. And like I say, the diesel of the 2 fuels that we have, diesel is the most critical because it is used for all the heavy machinery that's used to grade the road, do snow removal, the boiler in Halepohaku. So it's not possible or feasible for us to bring all the heavy equipment downtown to refuel it. Gasoline, one could make the case that all the fleets could be brought down to Hilo or Waimea and refuel over there, but that would be very inefficient and not very environmentally conscious. So the carbon footprint would be too big to be taking vehicles up and down every time they need to be refueled. As for the electric fleet option that Greg mentioned before, we're just not ready yet. We don't have the infrastructure. The observatories don't have the fleets yet. We don't have the fleet yet. And while it may be something that happens in the future, we're just not there yet. Remember, there is a hard deadline of July 15, 2028 by when the tanks need to be removed. Ideally, we would like to have the replacement of the tanks in place before we decommission the existing tanks, just so that we're not left without the capability of storing and dispensing fuel. The proposed solution that we are presenting consists of 2 2,500 gallon double wall tanks designed for fuel storage and dispensing. They have built-in dispensing systems into the tank. They are stackable when transporting, so they basically come on a flatbed truck and they will be placed on we will put the project calls for a concrete slab with a berm around it to provide a tertiary containment system to prevent any leaks or spillages, or to contain the spillages. Even though we're using about 250 to 500 gallons a month per diesel, we cannot get a smaller tank because the minimum amount of fuel that we can get delivered at Halepohaku is 2,500 gallons. So nobody will deliver less than 2,500 gallons to us. That's why we're going with 3,000 gallon tanks. We are proposing installing those tanks on the east end of the utilities base yard. Right now, this area here is a gravel road. This particular spot that we're highlighting is currently used to park our forklift, so it's being disturbed. We wouldn't be clearing any new land. That's the area where the tanks would be located. It's out of the way, out of sight. That's a rendition of what the tanks would look like on that location. We did consider other locations for the tanks. One was in the area where the current fuel dispensing pumps are. Another one is above where the diesel tank is. And we decided against these locations, one, because it's a very high visibility location from the access road to the summit. They would be immediately visible to the public in those locations. The place where we are proposing is out of sight, so people won't really be looking at them. And the other problem with these locations is that the ground is a much steeper slope than where we are proposing, so it will require a lot more material movement to set the area for the tanks. So that's what the project in summary is all about. There's 3 tasks going on right now in parallel with this project. One is what we're doing right now. We're doing the internal review process with environmental committee, Kahukamana, you guys, MKSOA. At the same time, we are working with engineering partners to finalize the engineering design and cost estimate of the proposed new storage and dispensing station. And then we are getting ready to issue an RFP for an EA for the whole project. So ideally, we can get the EA started early in the next calendar year while we move with all the other steps along the way. The formal proposal includes all the information regarding the project that you are probably familiar with in these project proposals. It includes the details of how much land will be trenched and excavated. And that's kind of what we have in a nutshell. So
Thank you, Rodrigo.
I'll be glad to take any questions if there's any.
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
There's no, Diana, did you have a question?
No.
No? Okay,
Can I ask a quick one?
sure. Yes, Andy.
But Rodrigo, do you have an estimate of how long the work will take? You mentioned noise as a possible issue, and so.
Yeah, I think the work is going to be the part that takes the least amount of time of the whole project. Right now, the timeline I'm envisioning and hoping I'm not being overly optimistic is to get our engineering partners to do the engineering design and cost estimate of the small size storage and dispensing station by either the mid to late November. I hope to get the EA awarded probably in January or February of 2025. From the estimates that I've been getting from consultants, the EA should take about 18 months. So that would take us over to what, middle of 2026. At that point, we start issuing the RFP for a contract. You know, and then by the time we grant the contract, maybe it's late 26, early 27. That still leaves us with 1.5 years to complete the project. Maybe the thing that'll take the longest once we issue notice to proceed will be the procurement of the tanks. Not sure how long it'll take to get them from the mainland to here. The removal of the tanks and the lines should be I mean, if we go by how long it took to take CSO out, it shouldn't take us more than a month, 6 to 8 weeks, I would guess, to take the tanks and lines out. To put the tanks in, once the tanks are delivered, I said we're talking about a 14 by 24 foot concrete slab with an 8-inch berm around it that can be poured in a day, and dropping the tanks from a flatbed to that place, you know, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, maybe the most, once we get the tanks on site. It's the getting the tanks on site that's going to be the waiting game, and the and getting the EA completed.
Thanks.
Any other questions? If not, I will ask for a motion
To recommend.
recommend approval of the tank removal as submitted. This will go to the Board of Regents. Thank you, Diana. Diana's moved. Is there a second? Julie seconds. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Thank you. Aloha,
Thank
everybody.
you, Rodrigo. Yeah.
Okay. So
Second
the
item.
next item is the update on the SO, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, this is just for information, your information and review. It is something I am working on, we are working on, with MK SOA, and their management team on, along with Caltech. So we are working on a sublease termination agreement with Caltech to terminate their sublease now that they have completed the decommissioning of CSO. That agreement is fairly straightforward, as the sublease we had with them is fairly straightforward. However, as Caltech has agreed to, voluntarily agreed to, the termination agreement includes a new and unique condition. DLNR for many years, along with the public, has been asking us to look at, as we were preparing for a new master lease, new subleases and whatnot, have been asking us to look at including in any new sublease a requirement that observatories make a contribution to a fund for the future decommissioning of certain infrastructure on the mountain, assuming at some point in time there were no observatories. So as we were working on new subleases, new master lease and new subleases with the observatories prior to Act 255, one of the things that the Office of Maunakea Management did, Stephanie Nagata under her leadership, is they had to come up with a methodology to figure out how would we, well, first of all, estimate the cost of removing this infrastructure, and then how would you allocate those costs to the different observatories. So they worked with Hilo Facilities on this and came up with a methodology that the observatories agreed to, which included an allocation to Caltech, which Caltech has agreed to. So let me sort of walk you through at a high level the assumptions behind the methodology. So the costs that were estimated that are included are for shared utilities in the astronomy precinct only. So that's in the summit area. It did not include VLBA, which is down below. Their costs would be calculated separately at the time that their sublease was terminated. So we were only talking about data lines, communication lines, and power lines, electrical power. It does not it includes the removal of the utilities as well as restoration of those trenched areas. It does not include decommissioning of roads. We had assumed that DLNR would not necessarily want to have the roadways removed because these are public lands and they would want to continue to provide public access. The costs are assigned to the benefiting observatories based on the utilities lines that actually service that observatory. And I'll show you some maps later on to explain that. And then those costs were adjusted by each observatory's pre-negotiated multiplication factor. So over the years, IFA, OMKM, and the observatories had agreed to these formulas by which larger observatories paid a greater share of various costs. And smaller ones paid a lesser share. So we have used those factors in a number of different ways when we calculate the budget for MKSS every year, special projects like the fuel project, etc. So observatory site decommissioning plans. So the decommissioning plans for their actual site would cover the removal and site restoration for all lines within their subleased area. Okay, so this is just for the shared portion of the system. We also assumed that we could do all of this under a single planning and permitting effort. So that was estimated as a percentage of total costs. Costs were prepared in 2020 dollars with an agreed upon escalation adjustment due to CPI, based on CPI. So that's the basic assumptions of the methodology that was used. Now let me walk you through how it actually works. So this is a very simplistic overview of the utility system in the astronomy precinct. And you see by the colored lines what kind of utility lines we're talking about and where they go and who they serve. What we had to do was figure out, okay, since the observatories are all spaced out, you know, those at the furthest point we're going to have to pay more. We had to figure out how to estimate all of that, and that was based on linear feet, estimated linear feet of the system. So then we had to break it down into who pays for what. So CSO and JCMT share this portion of the shared utility line. So their costs were based on the removal of that portion of the utility system. Then there were 9 observatories that are served by this portion of the utility system. So their costs were based on the linear footage here, along with their multiplication factor. And then there's a portion of the utility service system that services all of them, including CSO and JCMT. So that was estimated separately. And based on that approach, this was a pro rata share that we came up with, again in 2020 dollars. So you see there's a portion that under the 11-way calculation that everybody shares. And those who are part of the 9-way portion of the system, they share in that. And then JCMT and CSO share in the portion that only serve them. And then that gets all totaled up. So what we've done with the Caltech sublease termination agreement is include their contribution towards this fund. Adjusted, we're assuming that we'll be able to execute this agreement by the end of this year. So their actual payment will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $628,000. Okay. Now, the unique thing about this fund is that this money is that it will be placed into a special account at the university and held separately because it's for future decommissioning. But one of the reasons why I want to brief you folks on this is that it would become an asset that transfers to MK-SOA at the time of transfer. Now, I have briefed MK-SOA on this one time, but not in this level of detail. I'm working with their management team right now. We've briefed them on this and how this was all established and agreed to. And what we're wanting to do is in the next, what I had wanted to do at their next board meeting was present this for their review as well. So we're not asking MKMB for an approval or anything. I just want you folks to be aware of this is something that has been negotiated with Caltech. To their credit, they agreed to do this on their own. They volunteered to do this on their own. It was not a condition of their sublease, the original sublease. And we'd like to execute this by the end of the year. Any questions?
Question, Greg?
Oh, go ahead, Mike. I mean, Wayne.
Is this account going to be in a form of restriction for this very specific use only?
Yes. Yes.
Even when it transfers to MKSOA?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, I don't know what happens when it transfers to them.
It becomes their responsibility.
Yeah.
But it should be set up as like a trust account for a use for future removal. utility.
Yeah, restricted to the purpose.
Right, that's where I was going. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Greg, do the other observatories have to agree to this in writing or?
Yeah, so what was going on was that we had worked on this and this was going to be a term in their new subleases.
Okay.
Now that we were directed to stop work on all of that, this has just been sitting out there. I am assuming MK-SOA will want to include something like this in any new leases they issue. And we've come up with the methodology, the observatories have agreed to it. We actually asked them if they wanted to go hire their own consultant to verify the work, and they decided not to. So this is what we have.
Yeah, I think as long as MK-SOA understands, it's their
Yeah.
responsibility to take it to the next step.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when it transfers,
Yeah,
and
they need to anticipate what needs to be done.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the funds technically won't be used until they pull all the utilities out, right? So it'll kind of sit in perpetuity until that happens.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious, not that I want to get into the weeds, but I don't know how this transfer mechanism between UH and MK-SOA would work. But that's for the lawyers to figure out. I was just curious about that authority to actually transfer these types of funds from one department to another department, especially one that has yet to create administrative rules.
Yeah, as I've shared with you folks before, MK-SOA has a working group that's been set up specifically to look at the transfer of assets. So this will be part of what that group looks at. But the challenge in all of that work, Julie, is as you've pointed out, I mean, every classification of asset probably has its own mechanisms for how a transfer or assignment would need to occur.
It does, even for accepting some of the cultural material.
Right.
Yeah, great, make sure that kudo goes, so we're.
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, that concludes the formal agenda of the
Okay,
meeting.
so now we can move to executive session to consult with our attorney on questions and issues.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion that we move into executive session to consult with our attorney on our duties and powers and privileges related to some of these issues that we've just discussed and I briefed you on as it pertains to MKSOA, our role with MKSOA.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. All in favor, say aye or raise your hands.
Bye.
Aye. Unanimous approval, so we will now move into executive session and then reconvene our public meeting once we're done. So we'll see you in executive session. Thank you. And Wayne, right? Wayne's the last one, yeah?
Okay, he's in.
He's in? Okay. All right, it is now 6:41. I will call the public meeting back to order. And Greg, can you summarize for me?
Sure. So for the record, during executive session, the Maunakea Management Board, we consulted with our attorney, regarding, our powers and duties as related to the Caltech sublease termination, agreement, discussed, in the public meeting. We also, discussed various issues regarding MK-SOA, the transition process, status of that with MK-SOA, Maunakea Stewardship Oversight Authority. No decisions were made, no actions were taken. It was for information purposes only.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda is announcements. Next meeting will be held on November 5th. Oh, election day.
I'm gonna miss that one.
Make sure you vote.
Was that Diana?
I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna be on a flight to New Zealand at that time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, I guess election day wouldn't be an issue. So as far as November 5th, well, we'll have to figure out quorum later. So, yeah, public meeting will be held.
Well,
Our next
Chair,
meeting will,
sorry,
yes.
you know, that being a state holiday,
Or is
your staff will not be able to assist you with the meeting. If that's, you may want to reschedule for that purpose.
I'm sad.
No, I mean, but I didn't realize that you're not working that day. Okay.
I didn't, I
Had no
don't think,
idea.
yeah, I don't think about those things. so.
Yeah. Okay, so what day shall do we want to do it?
The 12th, the following week.
The following week?
12.
You still be gone, Diana?
Yeah, I'll still be gone. I'm gonna be gone for 10 days. So
19th.
You can do the 12th.
19th would work. Oh, no, 19th is not gonna work. No, wait, 1 second. I'm so sorry. No, I come back on the 19th. Sorry. Thought it was a shorter trip. It's 2 weeks.
Do you want to wait that long or
No, I think better if we,
do it on the 12th?
yeah.
And okay, what I
Well, wait a minute.
And just be absent.
No, we could do it on the 19th.
No, I'm
Oh, you come
flying
back
home that day.
yes.
Okay, then we keep it on the 12th. You bet.
Okay, we'll keep, we'll move the meeting to Tuesday, November 12th. So it's a week after our normally scheduled meeting at 5 o'clock. Any other announcements? Right?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. If not, there's no other announcements, so I will adjourn the meeting. It is now 6:45 PM and let's see, happy Halloween then for everybody. You know, I guess yeah, happy Halloween. Have a good rest of your week and thank you for attending. Aloha.